Thank you, Jim. There's a couple folks that we're trying to make sure get on. And I'm not sure if Meg's uncle, John Cutts, Jack, is on yet. And if you're not talking, if you could mute, that'd be great. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started. And thank you all for being here today to celebrate Meg's life. I'd like to start with just a moment of silence for prayer and peaceful thoughts about our friend Meg. So let's just take a moment right now for that. Thank you. Meg's favorite uncle, Jack Cutts, is hoping to join us if he can get through. And Meg enjoyed many world travels with her Uncle Jack, including their Trans-Siberian adventure together. So if he can get on, then we'll see if he wants to say anything. He wasn't sure he did or not, so we'll find out. We're also recording this for Meg's mom, Carol, and for her family and friends outside the newsroom. And then we will get together again in person once we can, once this pandemic is over and we can get together and celebrate Meg again. This morning, Governor Evers called Carol to tell her how much he and his wife love Meg's stories and how well Meg represented Wisconsin and how important she was as a reporter, in particular how she covered our state's troops and what a key job it was to tell their story. Also, the University of Wisconsin Journalism School faculty have just voted unanimously to honor Meg with their Distinguished Service Award. And that celebration will occur on April 23rd. The Milwaukee Press Club has elected Meg to its Hall of Fame and also established a scholarship for journalism students in her name. And Jim Nelson will have more on that later. I'm getting a constant string of messages from readers about Meg and the impact she had on them. Here's just a small sample. This morning's story and video of Meg Jones was worth every inch devoted to it. Sometimes we forget the value of a good reporter to our shared humanity. Thank you. Thank you for the outstanding tribute to Meg Jones. She was a great friend to Wisconsin's military and veterans, and she will be missed. Please know the loss of Meg is felt throughout the readership of the Journal Sentinel. She had such a depth of person, and her writing reflected this. I send my condolences to you and your colleagues. She was an original and gone much too soon. I was heartbroken by the article on Meg Jones and the news of her death. I followed her articles and found them very special, obviously just like she was. My condolences to the staff at MJS. We just have to give thanks that people like that cross our paths in our lifetime. My condolences after reading Meg Jones died too young in yesterday's paper. 3 months ago, you asked if she could interview my mother about living in Japanese-occupied Hong Kong during World War II. But Alzheimer's and a stroke robbed my mother of her voice. Meg can interview her now. They both died on Sunday. I want to personally thank you and the JS for placing the article about Meg Jones on the front page. What a woman. Meg frequently attended the Great Books Dinner and Discussion at Milwaukee School of Engineering. That's how I met her, and we became lunch coffee friends immediately. Every professor who teaches in that series enjoyed and admired Meg. She always walked into the Alumni Partnership Center with that big smile and those happy, sparkling eyes. Most of the time, she was wearing those dangling Packer earrings. When the two of us met for lunch, it was a whirlwind of ideas about what we were reading. She was kind, funny, intelligent, and a fantastic writer. Many of us have similar things to say about Meg as a force in our lives. I'd like to start with Professor Meg Kissinger, our friend and former colleague who now teaches at Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism. Meg actually has left her grad students unsupervised in class to participate today. Meg.
Thanks, George. Oh boy, that's a tough act to follow, and I'm so honored to be here. So I wrote a little something because I think if I just spoke off the cuff, things would get messy. So I'm going to be like Joe Biden and read it off the teleprompter here, and probably with equal skill. So forgive me in advance. But what I wrote was this: that I was lucky enough to be one of Meg Jones's 500 best friends. Though we had much different beats and writing styles, she from the Sentinel and I from the Journal, readers would sometimes confuse us because of our mutual first name. I get compliments for Meg's work and she'd field complaints for mine. Eventually, a friendship formed. We always enjoyed being together, often for hours, whether at Wrigley Field or Miller Park or George Watt's tea room, blabbing away about this thing or that. When I moved to New York a little over 4 years ago, Meg would send me good old-fashioned typed letters, chock full of news. We were always sure to get together when I was back in town, and like all of you, I was crushed to learn of her diagnosis. I called her right away to see how she was holding up, but she didn't answer. I texted her, nothing. Email, still no response. So I did what she would do. I wrote her an old-fashioned letter. And a few days later, Meg texted me to see if we could set up a kind of long-distance slumber party on FaceTime. It was Saturday night. We were both in our PJs, and one of us was drinking red wine. We talked, as we always did, about many subjects: the Badgers, the Packers, politics, good books, and of course, a little newsroom gossip. We were both excited about the upcoming celestial event, the so-called Star of Bethlehem, which is really no star at all, but Juniper and Saturn aligning in such a way as to appear to be one. Also, it's also known as the Christmas star, and it's the very one that is said to have led the wise men to the Christ child. It was last visible in 1226 AD, in the days of Genghis Khan. We'd better make our move if we're going to see it now, Meg joked. But I could see that she was getting tired, and I didn't want to wear her out. And yet she had one more thing that she wanted to talk to me about that night. She told me about what it was like getting that diagnosis and how she and her mom, her true best friend, never imagined that Meg would be the one to go first. That was tough, Meg said, but the rest was not so bad. And then, way more for my benefit than hers, she looked right into my eyes and said, "You know, Meg, I'm at peace with this." And she said it with such courage and calm that I believed her. You all know that Meg was a private person in many ways, so this was really a gift. I had hoped that I would be the one to cheer her up with our conversation, but looking back now, I can see that it was Meg going out of her way to make me feel better. I was walking along the Hudson River last Sunday when my cell phone rang, and I could see that it was Jim Nelson calling. And I knew why. Meg did not live to see the Christmas star. Over these last few days, I've come to think of Meg as a kind of a star of her own. She was rare, brilliant, a joy to all of us for the short time that we were together. We wanted to linger in that sparkle, but it was not to be. Meg was not much for organized religion. Still, she lived her life in such a way that any religion would be proud to claim her. And I was proud to call her my friend, as I know the other 499 of you are. When I gaze at the night sky this week, I'll search for that star and I'll think of Meg with gratitude and awe. A light as bright as Meg will never grow dim. The Star of Bethlehem led the wise men to the manger. May the light that was Meg Jones, a person who lived every minute to the fullest, glow in us forever. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meg. Really appreciate that. That was wonderful. Enterprise editor Tom Ketting, who worked on many, many stories with Meg through the years, would now like to say a few words, and then Tom will introduce a number of other folks who will add their memories. Tom?
Thanks, George, and thanks, Meg. I felt like at the end of your reading, we should all say amen. I don't have a prepared speech. What I have are two anecdotes. One has been around for so long that I don't swear to the facts. The other one is much more private. The public one is one Gary Krentz and I have told and retold so many times that I'm not positive who actually was working that Saturday afternoon. So I'm going to say we both were, because that's kind of the way I remember it at this point. A story was breaking. We needed to get a hold of someone. We immediately thought of Meg. We called her, no answer. About 5 minutes later, she called us back and in a very hushed tone said, "What do you need?" And we said, well, there's a story breaking. Where are you? And she said, in the Milwaukee area. And we said, are you busy? Yes. What are you doing? Playing poker. Really? Where are you playing poker? Look, guys, I'm in the back of a building, okay? It's not supposed to be going on. At that point, Gary and I had completely lost interest in the story. We were far more interested in what Meg was doing. So Meg went on to tell us, again in hushed tones, that she was the only woman there. They were mostly only older guys, and she didn't really know their names. They were mostly nicknames. And if that was all we needed, could she please get back to the game, or they were going to get suspicious? So to me, that was just a classic Meg anecdote that has circulated in the last week in the way that thousands of others have probably circulated. On a more personal note, and I think this speaks to just those small moments of kindness that Meg kind of took your breath away at, is that she walked into my office one day and I was having a snack. She asked me what it was, and I said, "Oh, this is great. It's called Hunter's sausage. It's a particular kind of sausage from a place in rural Cumberland, like there's an urban Cumberland, called Louie's Meats, Louie's Finer Meats." And she says, "Oh, I know that place. I've been there, of course." And I said, "Yeah, it's near where we a family cabin where we stay often in the summer, and it's really a treat." From that day forward, and that was probably 7 or 8 years ago, Meg never got within 20 miles of Cumberland that she didn't swing by Louie's Meats, get a pack of Hunter sausage, and bring it back for me, and it would just show up on my desk. And I just thought that was so amazing. Now the bad part of that is that one day my daughter was visiting the newsroom, and Meg went up to her and said, "Hey, how did you like that Hunter sausage I got for you last week from Louie's?" And my daughter looked at me and said, "We didn't get any Hunter sausage." And Meg looked at me and said, "Busted." And because I never took it home, I would just enjoy it myself at work. I never shared it with anybody. So, so that's the funny Meg and the beautiful Meg who did those little touches, the cards, the phone calls, in my case, the Hunter sausage from Louie's Meats, that made her so special. So next, we're going to hear from Mary Spicuzza. Mary?
Hi, everybody. I apologize. I did not prepare anything. But I just wanted to share something, which is there are so many classic Meg stories, but this one will always stick out with me. Is over the summer I was on furlough and I was getting some kind of nasty social media Twitter notes. Some people saying like, "Oh, I'm sorry you got furloughed. You should have gotten fired." that kind of thing. Anyhow, somehow Meg got wind of it and was not happy and decided to send me one of her letters to try to cheer me up. And I won't read you the whole thing, but she was talking about her furlough plans and what she was going to do. I'm happy to share this with you guys at some point, but this is a very classic Meg line. She said, "Since I don't spend much time on social media, I've never been flamed or dicked around by numbnuts. But I'm sorry you are going through that. You don't need me to tell you what a great reporter you are, or what a super mom you are, or what an absolutely fabulous Packer fan you are, but I just did, so there." She talked about Ashley's new dog and FaceTiming with Jen Steele. And then she just attached in the letter, she included she said she'd been reading Reader's Digest since she was a little kid. And she sent me a favorite article with a little note from her. And it was this story called The Voice in the Box, which I can send anybody a copy of. But it was about a little boy who befriended an elevator operator. Information, please, and how this person became like a dear friend of his. And at one point he calls the operator because his bird died and he was inconsolable, and nobody could comfort him. So he called Information, please, and he wrote how she must have sensed my deep concern for she said quietly, "Paul, always remember that there are other worlds to sing in." So I am imagining Meg singing in other worlds, but really missing her in this one. So I think I'll stop there. But that was very Meg.
Thank you, Mary. We appreciate it. If you haven't noticed, I know George is going to have a toast later, but I'm off this week, so I'm already toasting. Karen Herzog, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm really honored to be in the newsroom with everybody. Meg and I started our Milwaukee reporting careers close together in the early 90s at the Sentinel. And for the last 8 years of my reporting career, I sat across the aisle from Meg in the GS newsroom, which was really exciting because in my career that way. Meg was our Norm from Cheers. Every day she arrived in the newsroom for her late shift, she would cheerfully tuck her lunchbox under her desk and greet each colleague around her by name. Like clockwork, we would look up from whatever we were doing, and a choral response of "Meg" would follow every day. And that was Meg. And Meg was in many ways very predictable, and in other ways not so much. Another predictable, we talk about predictable, was we always knew when Meg was interviewing a hard of hearing veteran on the phone because her voice would get loud, but very respectfully loud. It was a unique loud, not like Tom Dakin when he's on the phone, but very respectful loud. And she would hang on the veterans' every word. And his was like the only voice in the room that mattered. And young reporters, and I see Talis on my screen, and Davey, of course, young reporters marveled at her legendary interviewing skills because she made it look so easy. Because for her, it really was. Tom and I are especially grateful to Meg because she picked up every Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and Easter. And we talked about that often. And it was because she wanted people who had children to be home with their families. And that was really important to her. And so Tom and I were two people who were, Meg generously gave that precious gift of holiday family time. She pushed the envelope of every life experience and every reporting experience imaginable. And the one thing, I studied Meg's writing quite a bit because I just spent so many years of my career with her. she experienced so many things, you know, really tragic situations and really tough situations. Every fire, and I mean, I was with her in so many stories where it was like a mass shooting or something, and she was always really unflappable. And she would sit down at her computer and she would be unflappable when she would write it. But I know she experienced it because I could feel it in her writing. You know, have to absorb all those feelings in order to write, like Meg did. And she hit it really well. But every one of those stories, I'm sure she carried with her. And I guess the one thing I would say that I think Meg would want all of you to be careful about is that I do think that it takes a toll on your body after a while when you go through so many, you know, it's the adrenaline of the job, it's all the heartaches that you absorb as a reporter. And I hope that you all take good care of yourselves, and that's something I know Meg would appreciate saying as well, is just take really good care of herself. She was an amazing person, and I'm just really, really thankful that I got to be in the same orbit with her.
Thank you so much, Karen. We all know that when new reporters came in, Meg kind of welcomed them into the family. Davy Shastri, are you there? Davy? Okay, I'll circle back for Davy. Molly Beck, are you there?
I'm here.
Great.
Well, I know that I didn't get to know Meg as long as most people here, but I was, you know, when I got hired at the Journal Sentinel, I was really excited to work with Meg because I had been reading her stories for years, and I really appreciated how she covered military veterans. It seemed like she covered them like they were former presidents or something, you know, in a good way. And I really appreciated the respect she gave them. And then when I started working with her, she seemed to know the name of all of them and just had anecdotes for every military veteran that she talked to, which I really appreciated because both my grandparents were in World War II. So that was the first thing that I noticed about her, obviously. The second is what Mary said earlier this year, when Patrick and I were working a lot of hours covering what was going on with the Evers administration and the pandemic response. She sent us these 3-page typed out letters about how much she appreciated what we were doing, and that, you know, that was just meant a lot because we were just working a lot, and it was just something we needed at that very moment. She just seemed to know that we needed it. And then the third is, it's a small thing, but every time she would come to Madison, she would ask us if we needed notebooks or pens and how many, and if she could take us to lunch. And that seems like a small thing, but it was just so thoughtful that she knew that, you know, we didn't have a storeroom full of those supplies in the press room, and she wanted to make sure that we had what we needed, which is something that I would never have thought to do, you know. So, but I think that says a lot about her character and her generosity and just her heart.
Thanks so much, Molly. I appreciate it. Everybody does. Carol Deptola, are you on the line?
I am.
Excellent.
I went to the newsroom in like late August or early September to pack up and sort like the 90 gazillion cookbooks that are there. It was at night, and I figured nobody would be there, but Meg was there. I'm like, Meg, what are you doing here? She said, I'm working. Like, what else would she be doing there? So Meg was working in the newsroom in summer when everybody else was, you know, squirreled away at home. And it was great. I mean, first off, just to be able to talk with another human being face to face. And plus, it was Meg. So you knew you were going to get like a bunch of good stories. It was a wide ranging conversation, as they say. And, you know, she told me like some of the things she'd been working on, and she had interviewed some of the Harley riders, and they looked at her and said, oh, you're wearing a mask, huh? And she said, so I took it off. And I said, But, of course, Meg was going to do the thing that was going to get her the best interview and the best story, and it was okay. And she, of course, she turned in great copy as always. Speaking as a former copy editor, I can tell you what a pleasure it was to always get her stories. We'd sort of fight over them because they'd be entertaining and they'd be as smooth as butter. And when we were talking too, because I was packing up, we were kind of talking about how weird it was going to be to not be at 333 anymore. And she said that she remembered coming to the newsroom on a grade school field trip. And it was, you could tell she was starstruck. She got to see where Gerald Kloss sat and IQG, I own Quinby Greggs. And if you're not local and of a certain age, let me just tell you, those were big deal names to like little word nerds growing up reading the Green Sheet. And she just was marveling that, after a time, she came up that same elevator and walked past those desks, except now that she was working there. And you could tell that she just felt like so privileged by that. And and just like felt so lucky. And it didn't occur to me at the time because it was just, two colleagues having a conversation. But now in retrospect, I really feel like, it was our privilege to have her working there and to have known her. And she's really, she has that same star status. Just the stories she's written and the way she's told them and the way she's become such a presence in readers' lives and in our lives. It was just, it didn't occur to me at the time, but now it really does. And I'm really going to miss Meg and her exuberance.
Thank you so much, Carol. Davey, I believe you've now joined the call.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I got a random phone call, but I'm here now. I've been thinking about so many different things that, I don't know, just thinking about Meg and thinking about the impact that she had on us as young reporters. And I don't know, there are just so many great moments that where she reached out and just took the time to like spend time with people. And I think that's the thing that I just keep like coming back to, is how generous she was with her time and her attention. And I was talking to my friend yesterday, telling him about Meg, and I was like, there's this way in which she reached out to people that was very vulnerable, that is honestly kind of hard to do. Like she always took the time to be in your life and to let people into her life. And I just think that, I don't know, that like every interaction I had with her just was kind of that feeling that she would go out of her way to make sure that you knew that she was thinking of her. So I don't know if anybody brought this up, but I was talking about this at the earlier meeting we had today with the guild membership, but I was just laughing because I remember it in the middle of the pandemic when she got her name in the dictionary and she emailed everybody, and then Tom emailed everybody, and then it just turned into this whole like lovely little moment where we were all just happy in the middle of all of the chaos that like everybody was sharing how they had gotten their name in the dictionary. And I found that that email that she sent me when she first realized it, so I'll share it in the chat. But I just reread it twice today, and it just made me smile because of how excited she was. So I thought I would just remind everybody of that little happy moment.
Thanks, Davey. That's great. Phil Glauber, can you join us?
Yes, hello. I'm glad we're doing this. I just wanted to say, first of all, that the story on Meg was written on behalf of the newsroom by everybody in the newsroom. That was what that expression was. And it was edited by Tom Ketting And it was one of those Tom Ketting edits where he says, I'll just take 10 minutes and roll through this. And then 45 minutes later, he said, it'll be another 10 minutes. I wanted to salute Meg's mom, Carol, who spent some time with me on the phone to talk about her daughter and what must have been the hardest day of her life. And she couldn't have been more welcoming or accommodating and, just a beautiful woman. And I learned a lot about Meg in those couple of phone calls. And one thing Carol told me was she was born into this family of adventurers. And, I asked her what she meant about that. And she told me that, Meg grew up in Rhinelander. And then, after her parents separated, Meg and her mom moved to Whitewater. And it was there in Whitewater where Meg's mom went back to school at the university. And she would save up $10 a month every month from a little meager living that they had. And she would make sure that they could go somewhere in the summer. And it would, they'd go to a park, campgrounds, they would drive. And, Meg had a job, while, she would take care of the cook stove. This is as a very young girl, and she'd meet people and make friends. And then go fast forward maybe 10, 15 years later, Carol told me this story that she called Meg. By then, Carol was working with MPS as a psychologist. And she called Meg to have Sunday breakfast in Madison. Meg was at the college. And, they're sitting, they're talking, they're chatting. And then Meg finally said, what's this all about, Mom? And her mother said, do you want your inheritance now or when I croak? And what it was is she told her, I've got a year off. Would you consider dropping out of school for a semester? We'll travel the world. And they did. And that was Meg in a nutshell. So that adventurous spirit comes from somewhere. And I think I learned where it comes from. And it's something that I'll remember. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. I want to a follow-up note on Carol. I talked to Carol the afternoon that Meg passed away, and her closing comments to me were she wanted to thank the newsroom for taking care of Meg and loving her, and that she was spending the day thanking God for allowing her to have Meg for 58 years. I thought in the moment how many of us could come up with that depth of thought and that rich thought. I know Meg was not a fan of organized religion, but that's a moment of spirituality from her mother to her daughter that would be awfully hard to top. We wanted to open the lines up. Would anyone else like to speak? And feel free for whatever's on your heart if you want to share.
This is Elaine Schmidt. Oh, sorry.
No, Elaine, go ahead.
Okay. I came to the Sentinel end of the summer of '93 and came from Canada, walked into an unfamiliar place in the city I grew up in, by the way. And one of the first things that happened when I walked into the Sentinel was this woman in I don't know, it was like a Packer t-shirt, I think, popped up and said, hey. Well, hey. And from there, over the years, we became dear, dear friends. It started because she wanted to pick my brain about going to a concert. For those of you who don't know, I've covered classical music, dance, and theater back in the Sentinel days, and then for the Journal Sentinel as a stringer. She wanted to pick my brain about some concert, and then that turned into going to some concert, and that turned into 3.5-hour lunches. I should point out that while it's laudable that you're all saying, oh, she would give up our holidays so, so we could be with our families, Meg would call me when her dinner break was coming up. And this was prearranged, and tell me, I'm leaving. And I'd make giant holiday feasts. I would corral everyone, get them to the table, start bringing food out. Meg would blow through the front door, and this went on for 20 or more years. She'd come through the front door yelling, Uncle Fred, Aunt Fritzy, to people she's not the slightest bit related to. And she would stay for dinner, regale the table incredibly. I often had to watch my Uncle Fred to make sure he wouldn't choke as he was eating, because she was just reducing everyone to hysteria. And then she'd have to take her dessert and head back to the paper. And I'd get a text later on that, there was whipped cream all over the keyboard, but it was great. We should not have been friends on paper. Meg's a big sports fan. I don't get the appeal. There just are so many things that are radically different between us. And she was one of my dearest friends. I saw her twice after her diagnosis, and actually, I now know that it was after her diagnosis that she ran across town, picked up 2 plants, delivered one to my mother and one to me, just dropped them off, didn't stay to talk, because we had just lost my mother's brother. That was Meg. You couldn't wish for a better friend. Carol called me Sunday morning, and Tom, she said the same thing to me about being grateful for having Meg as a daughter for those years. It's a huge loss. Karen mentioned I should tell the holiday story so people didn't have such sympathy for Meg, but also just, a year and a half ago, we were talking about traveling, where we wanted to go. And I said, oh my gosh, my bucket list. And I started rattling off all these things on my bucket list. And I said, what's on yours? And she thought about it, really got, sort of took a minute of silence. And then she said, I don't really have a bucket list anymore. She had neatly checked off the things she had wanted to do. She said there are places she'd go back to, and she certainly didn't want to stop traveling. But the bucket list, she was done. She had done it all. And that kind of sums Meg up. So that's it. Thank you for listening.
Elaine, thank you. That was spectacular. That was wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else?
Yeah, Tom, I would just like to underline a couple of things. One, George put a comment in the notes about how after Meg passed, we've seen so many former interns comment about how she was a role model for them and really welcomed them to the newsroom. And that was never once where we asked Meg, oh, please be a mentor for this person, or please help that person. It was just, her nature to help the people around her and to really exhibit such a great, outstanding traits as a journalist and just as a human. And a few people on this call were on a recent email string from Meg that I just wanted to share. I mentioned this in the trending meeting the other day, where she had, in the midst of traveling back and forth for chemo treatments and things, sent an email and said, hey, I drove past this house, I think it's on like South Shore Drive, it was in Cudahy or St. Francis, and there was a tent on the front lawn. And she said, I just wonder if there may be a story here about, maybe during COVID, people are eating outside, or maybe they had a big Thanksgiving meal outside. Just giving this to you in case you have someone who you might want to have look into that. And of course, we didn't look into it immediately. We, just had other things going on. And then the next day we said, well, we'll take a peek at it. And next we got an email from Meg saying, I was on my way to the chemo treatment and I stopped and pulled over and knocked on the door to see if anyone could tell me about the tent. And it turned out it wasn't really a story because it was a tent over a fountain in the front yard. But to me, it just epitomized, some things where I will always remember Meg as someone who was always striving to find that next story, who was always, had an eye out for the readers, for quirky, interesting things. She didn't say, hey, here's this interesting item on a county government, agenda that you guys should look into. She said, here's this interesting thing that I saw that maybe people are interested in. She was certainly always willing to go that extra mile to do that story and to help people out. And yes, as a good reporter, she was a little impatient with editors who hadn't probably quite jumped on that idea as fast as she might have liked. But those are all things that I'm sure we'll remember about Meg and what she brought to the newsroom. And I'll just share another thought that I mentioned in the trending meeting as well, that we all know about the legacy she's left for the newspaper, and I really feel like it's on each of us. If you think about the areas, she covered and brought that special touch to, from the military and veterans to the EAA to the zoo, to these different areas that our readers have grew to rely on Meg to provide outstanding coverage in those areas. And until we can reorganize ourselves a bit, we have to make sure we're still covering those things and don't let them fade away. So that's one way we can, honor her and that legacy, is to, keep an eye out for those sorts of stories. And, when you're out and about, do things as Meg would. Gary has mentioned in the past that, if you send her on an assignment, she'd come back with that assignment, but also like 3 ideas for other stories. And that's really something I will always remember about her and her approach to journalism and just life in general.
Thanks so much, Greg. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Tom, I'd say something.
Absolutely.
Hello, everyone. Others have mentioned how Meg was such a big sports fan and had this outgoing personality. And if you worked with her on a Sunday, that came to the fore. She didn't have a TV at her desk, so she would set up shop where she could see the hub TVs and watch the Packer game. And you didn't need the sound on because Meg had her own play-by-play. And it was full-throated Packer fan, backer with her earrings and sweatshirt on. It was, all right, baby, that's right. You show them. Okay. And come on, ref, what's going on? And one thing after another like that. And we just loved it.
Thank you, Bob. That's classic. That is absolutely classic. Thanks for
Tom,
joining us.
I think I saw that that Meg's Uncle Jack might have made it. Uncle Jack, are you there? And would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I would. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, I've been working here to get Microsoft Teams on, and it hasn't worked, and somebody gracefully pulled me in on a phone call. Thank you. Of course, I've known Meg since the day she was born, right? And saw her grow up as a little girl and very smart along the way, extremely independent. Carol and I always talked about her independence, and we just love that. And at some point in her life, she decided to invite this uncle into her life in adventure travel and other things. It became other things, but it began with, Uncle, would you like to go with me to, let's say, Cuba, or let's say Africa, or let's say France? Let's dig around in the caves and so forth. And we did all of these trips, and oh my God, so we had so much fun, and we had so many just little things. But I got to tell you about one that you'll get a kick out of. So this was a trip to the Amazon basin, to South America, and then topped it off by going to Galapagos. But when we were in the Amazon basin, we were at a place called Sasha Lodge, which had a big lagoon out in front of it called the Black Lagoon, with all of its suspense and mystery. And it was dark and it was deep. But we had a fun time getting there because they loaded us into canoes, and I happened to have a GPS. And I turned on, we raced across the Black Lagoon, and Meg was shouting, "Uncle, how fast are we going?" And I reeled out, "We're doing 2.2 miles per hour," and so forth and so forth. But when we got to the other side, we're swimmers. Meg and I and her mother are swimmers, but Meg and I especially. And we saw a diving board on the place where we stopped, a beautiful lodge, kind of like a tree oriented little houses stuck out from branches. And so we went swimming, and I turned on my video camera just simply in case we got gobbled by something. I didn't know if anything was in it. And so we were swimming and treading water, and we're talking about just, we're the kind of people that could tread water for a half an hour, and we're just looking at one another and holding a conversation. And all of a sudden I said, "Meg, I'm going to swim out to that stake." She said, "You are not." I said, "Why?" She says, "I don't trust these waters." And I said, "Meg, something just brushed my leg," and it had. She says, "Uncle, stop that." And as we got out of the water, but at the week's end of this little tour to Sasha Lodge, we saw that they were feeding caiman by the dozens. And I thought to myself, oh my God, if I had known there were caiman and piranhas, we later learned, piranhas in there, I wouldn't have gone in swimming for the life of me. So we always had a laugh about that. But sports, Meg and I had this thing. I'm a Seahawker. I'm out in Seattle. And of course, she's a whatever you guys call your team back there. And I don't want to say its name because it's doing too well. She came out 2 years ago. She and Mom came out, and my sister Carol, and we had a seat in about the 45th balcony, and we just shouted left and right. And on that particular occasion, the Seahawks just killed the Cheeseheads. There was just nothing left to them. And of course, we always had bets going. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I have 1,000 memories to lean on. But I must say, on the day that Meg passed, my world stopped. And I can't describe the pathos, the difficulty I had in just comprehending what had happened. And it's still that way. So rather than get tearful, which is easy to do, I'm going to say thank you for letting me say just a few words about this lovely, lovely person. Okay.
Thank you, Jack.
So much. Thank you so much, Jack. We really, really appreciate it.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel very privileged to have been able to sit so close to Meg. She really did take younger employees under her wing. She took me out to lunch a couple of times, and she talked me through a lot of things and told me what she had learned over the years. And I will miss that, and I kind of regret not taking more time to just talk to her and just spend time with her. But she was really a thoughtful, graceful, just lovely person, and I will miss her. I'm very, very grateful that I was able to sit next to her.
Thank you, Talis. Anyone else? Gary, you told me not to do this, but do you want to take a shot?
I got your back, Gary.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work.
Okay. I'll tell Gary's story. Or Jim, do you want to?
Go ahead, Tom.
Gary tried every year to explain to Meg that we really didn't need 10 stories out of the EAA. But Meg was just passionate about the EAA. So every year, Gary would pull Meg into his office and say, Meg, it's really, I know you love it, but I don't know that the audience is really there. And Meg go, yeah. And Gary'd say, maybe we could just do one story to set it up, and then people could go themselves if they want. Yeah. And Gary'd say, yeah, so we're clear, right? And Meg would say, yeah. Now, oh, by the way, here's my budget of stories. This is where I'll be staying. I'll make it really cheap. I'll see you in a week. And then the next year, Gary would say to me, okay, I'm going to go a month earlier. I'm going to get her before she started anything. And Gary'd go in and say, Meg, now I know this is still a ways off, but I just want to be clear when EAA comes around, we're not going to do quite as much as maybe we did last year. And Meg would say, yeah, okay. And Gary'd say, I know you love it, but there is a little bit of a sameness to it. And Meg would go, yeah. And Gary'd say, okay, so we're clear. And Meg would go, yeah, except there's a couple of really big events this summer at EAA that haven't happened before, and I've already done half the reporting. So it really would only make sense if I finished it up. So I'll just, that week I won't be in the office. And Gary'd come out, and he as he'd walk by my office, he'd just go, she got me again. She got me again. She won again. And this went on, Gary, for how many years?
At least 3 or 4.
Yeah.
She'd always say, I'm going to stay with my cousin. It won't cost us a dime. And she was right. It never cost us a dime.
Classic stuff.
I wish I had recorded Gary's story about Meg's deer killing skills, because I remember him talking about how many deer she had killed, but it was always with a car and never actually with a gun, I think.
But it was actually during the deer hunting season when she would get them with the car.
No, but she actually did go hunting. This is Uncle again. She actually did go hunting with her dad, and she actually got one deer in her life. And she sent me that big picture of her with her dad sitting there with a big smiling face, and my wife just went through the ceiling. She said, oh my God, she wouldn't shoot a deer, would she? And so she did get one. But can I come back to the EA or the EAA or whatever it was, or AEE, whatever it was?
Sure.
I went to that one time, George, with her, and I was a real World War II buff, so she plugged into all my buffery associated with World War II, airplanes, Normandy Beach, everything else, and she just outdid me 5,000 times. But we're sitting at the table, and we both have got burgers in our mouths with our hands up to our face, and I mumble through my hamburger, Meg, there is a Messerschmitt 109 behind us. I shouted it like that, and she said, oh my God. And we turned around, and here was the ME 109. And right next to it, of course, was a P-51 and a P-47 and a P-39 and on and on and on. And oh my God, we just had so much fun. But for me, my dad her grandpa had a picture taken standing next to a Ford Trimotor. And I signed up to take a flight in the Ford Trimotor. So Meg took a picture of me standing next to the Ford Trimotor, and then I did this wonderful flight. So I was in every part of her life that she could in any way bring me into. And the only thing I got up on her is I got too around, and she didn't, and she didn't like that. Anyway.
That's great, Jack. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Tom, give a crack at this thing that Krentz and I were trying to croak out. So, yeah, back in the days of the Sentinel, one of the most dreaded assignments of all was coverage of the Milwaukee Sentinel sports show. Back in those days, the sports show was 10 days, and it was mandated from upstairs and from the editor's offices that we had to have a centerpiece story every day promoting our own goddamn sports show. Those were the days. The sports show, for those who don't remember, don't care, they had things like, you know, the resort booths, but they also had the fishing pond, and they had the Rick Barrett, I think, has done features about the Twiggy, the water skiing squirrel, and things like that. But for a number of years, they had guys that did log rolling. And when Meg was interviewed for her job by Bruce Gill, former city editor at the Sentinel, Bruce asked her, he knew she had this interesting background already, and he asked her, "Oh, do you know how to log roll?" And she said, "Yeah." And her first week of work, she was shipped out to the sports show probably more than once. And sure enough, she didn't get out of the goddamn log roll and did a test of it, and or gave it a go. And I believe in Mike DeSisti's photo gallery, there's a classic old picture of Meg on that assignment. So not only could she travel the world and all that, she could frickin' log roll, which is pretty amazing. And that's
she got her revenge. She got her revenge. She got her revenge later on by, I assigned her too many stories, so she always scheduled her vacations for the middle of March.
Well,
she never covered another sports show again.
That's one other thing that Meg was an absolute master of, was assembling and combining all of her vacation together, because she was never really gone for a week's vacation. It was always like a month, because she would do all her comp time, all her holidays worked and all that. And then she would be off to the Great Barrier Reef or wherever, the Amazon. Good Lord.
Right.
That's great. One last round. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak today?
I see Jenna Muir here, and I would love to hear the story of how Meg ended up playing drums at your wedding.
I was actually just about to jump in because I really wanted to tell that story about Meg, who for me was just the life of the party every time, every day. We stayed in touch after I moved to DC 6 years ago. She wrote me letters multiple times a month, like she did for so many other people. She came through DC like once a year. We got dinner, and there are many DC restaurants that will remember Meg's laugh, because we would just sit there for hours and she would just be cracking me up and we would just be having a good time. But that fun extended to my wedding in Turkey in 2017. She had heard that I had invited a few people from the newsroom to come, some close friends, and asked if she might make a detour from her vacation and swing by the wedding in Adana. To which we said, of course, absolutely, please join. And so she did. And again, she was the total life of the party. There were a lot of people there. I didn't get to spend as much time with her at the wedding as I wanted to. But about halfway through, I turned around and there was Meg holding this massive drum that the DJ had been playing to sort of encourage people to dance. And she was just pounding away. And there wasn't a single person who wasn't falling over laughing, because it was the best sight. My in-laws, who don't speak English, but all somehow managed to become fast friends with Meg, still talk about her to this day.
That's fantastic, Jen.
There's a video clip that's out there, which is priceless.
It's in the chat now. Rachel just posted it in the chat.
It's amazing.
All right. Anyone else? Then why don't I send it back to, oh,
it's Elaine again. Uncle Jack, are you still there?
I am.
You and I have never met, but I feel like I know you. because those stories you were telling, Meg told those to me with you as the lead character so many times. I've heard more about you than I can say. And I hope I meet you someday. She adored you and loved telling a good Uncle Jack story. I needed to tell you that. That's it.
Oh, that's so sweet to know. Thank you. You know, when Meg and I wish you guys could see me right now. I'm wearing my Milwaukee Sentinel, my Milwaukee Journal Sentinel hat that she gave me. So I've been wearing it since she left. Anyway, on more than one occasion, we would, you know, do this or do that, but we would travel, of course, together, and we were so bored with one another's stories that we would never sit at the same table. That was foreboding. So we get out there, and once in a while it would happen that she would and I would be thrust together for whatever reason at a table, because normally we would never do that. And I'd say, oh my God, Meg, story number 2C, go ahead. And she'd look back at me and she'd say, Uncle, 1B. And we knew exactly what that was. So we wouldn't tell our same stories, because I heard her stories so many times and she heard my stories so many times that it would drive you crazy. But that's so sweet of you. And what was your name again? I'm sorry.
Elaine Schmidt.
Elaine, yes. She spoke of you, Elaine. She actually spoke of a lot of and I would have to begin to associate a face with a name, because I know more about the newsroom than you might want to know.
That's okay.
Well,
you see the piranhas.
I'm going to interject that Meg and I would not sit together at performances anymore, but for very different reasons. She wanted to hear a present music concert that was going to feature some Beatles tunes. And I said, that's not going to be what you expect, Meg. It's just not going to be what you expect. She said, no, this will be great. I'm really pumped. And so I saved her a seat. We sat at the back. She sat with me. The Beatles tunes were played by a woman in Japanese silk pajamas who padded out barefoot, plopped down on a Turkish carpet, and played freeform improvisations on toy pianos, which I'm going to point out are not tunable. They never were, they never will be. So it was a surprise to Meg. And that was the end of the first half. The first half ended, she was completely silent. People were filing by to go get drinks. She finally looked at me, and in that dry way she had, she said, I really thought I was going to like that. And then there was a couple of beats of silence. And as though she needed to clarify, she said, I really didn't like that. And what began as a little ha 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 turned into snorting, weeping laughter. And we barely had it back together by the time the second half started. So no more sitting together. Different reason, same effect.
Oh, wonderful.
Anyone else?
Well, I could go on for so often. We're going to have to turn Uncle off. But I'm going to tell you one last one. She says, Uncle, we're going to the Bolshoi tonight. I said, gosh, how did you get us a seat? She said, well, I got the last 2 seats in the theater. Now, we were dressed like rag pickers, and we walked in, and here are these formally dressed to the T people with suits and tuxedos and gowns and Meg and I are standing in the darkest area that we possibly can at break, hiding, because we're in jeans and sneaker shoes and tennis shoes or whatever. Oh my gosh. But what a night. And she got us in, and she got us the last 2 seats in the theater. And when it came time to sit down, I said, Meg, take your seat. She said, Uncle, I want you to sit in the seat that I got, which was pretty close to the aisle. And all we did was just, our jaws hit the ground just to watch this performance in the Bolshoi together. But she was always giving and always letting me get whatever she thought I should, because Uncle, you're older and you're not going to be around, da 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 da. And oh my God, does that stick in my throat?
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you all for participating. This was tremendous. The Journal alumni, you're all part of the family, and thank you for your stories. This was terrific. George, I think you wanted to close with some thoughts about the obituary and then a toast.
So I'd like to, this has just been amazing. And I think it really shows you, what a person whose heart is in the right place, what kind of impact they can have. I'm going to just let Jim talk really quick about a scholarship fund that's been established in Meg's honor and will carry her name. So Jim, why don't you tell folks about that?
Yeah, well, I'm on the press club board and the press club endowment board. Last month, Emily, nice cat. Last month, the press club board heard about Meg's diagnosis, and we were not able to meet and have events. So somebody made a motion, and boom, within 30 seconds, we had voted her into the Hall of Fame, and which is usually a laborious, tortured process. And boom, she was in the Hall of Fame, which is amazing. And but Sunday, when I learned of her passing, I talked to several people on our endowment board, and we said, let's follow the Don Walker model and launch a scholarship. Let's beat the UW Foundation and so forth to the punch. And we put it out there. And if you go to the Milwaukee Press Club website, you'll see the endowment, and then you'll see the donate tag button. I can't tell you how many people I've heard from, staff members, alumni. It's been pouring in, and it's a nonprofit endowment, and we will have a tremendous scholarship in her honor, and we'll kind of work out the details of how it will be administered later. But if those of you current employees go through ACTA, through the your cause thing, because Gannett matches this these contributions 1-to-1. If you have any problems, let me know. But the outpouring has been astounding.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Jim. I just got a note from Rachel that because Jack had to call in and can't see all the chats, Jack, I just want you to know that people are talking about the stories you're sharing and giving them lots of hearts and thumbs up and talking about how you being here helped us feel like Meg was here with us. So thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I want to thank Bill again for writing the best obituary I've ever read. And I got a letter from someone. He actually wrote Bill. He's from the staff of the VA hospital, which you guys all know was very close to Meg's heart. And I'm going to excerpt from this letter about the story. Dear Bill, it must have been hard to write the story on Meg. You did a wonderful job and captured who she truly was. I can imagine Meg reading it, chuckling and saying, you didn't have to do that. She'd be forever low-key and humble, but what an amazing woman and reporter. It's a good reminder to me to be nicer, to be better, to try harder. Thank you for so eloquently capturing Meg. I know there's nothing I can say or type at this time that takes away the pain you and others are feeling, but I hope it makes a burden of grief you and others are carrying lighter to know that there are others out there sharing the load. I do know after going through a tragic loss that I've seen signs of heaven. It's real and she's there. I know she's okay and she's reading your story and smiling. So just some really nice words that Bill's story and Meg herself inspired. So I know Meg would want us to end this on a real high note with a toast, because how else could you end a tribute to Meg? So I've decided to toast with a spotted cow in memory of her story of the cows who escaped their pasture and ran in the middle of the night directly to the New Glarus Brewery to who knows what. But as Meg wrote, I'm going to call that up really quick. A herd of spotted cows busted out of their corral Monday, shuffled and sauntered around 1.5 miles before arriving at their destination, the brewery that manufactures the only sold in Wisconsin spotted cow beer. The bovine jailbreak naturally has been the talk of New Glarus. They came, they saw, they hung out, they pooped. Then the jig was up and they were taken back home. So in honor of Meg, who measured by adventure and friendship, the richest person in our newsroom, please share a toast with me in honor of Meg.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. L'chaim.
Jack, we recorded this and we'll send it to you and Carol, and you can share it with other family members.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
And,
thank you so much.
And Elaine, feel free to share it with other close friends from outside the newsroom that you and Meg know.
Thank you. Will.
Thank you all so much. I don't think, I think we needed this, everybody.
Yes.
So thank you very much. And that's the end of our tribute for now. But when we can get back together in person after this pandemic ends, that's what we're going to do. Okay. And Carol will join us then too, Meg's mom. So thanks, everybody. Really glad you all participated.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.